Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If everybody would please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to our September action meeting. I want to remind everybody that we are streaming live this evening through the internet. Mrs. Sugars, would you take roll, please?
Mr. Goodwin.
Here.
Mrs. Judge.
Here.
Mrs. Matlack.
Here.
Mrs. Seidel.
Here.
Mrs. Scarpolino.
Here.
Mrs. Schultz.
Here.
Mr. Tomlinson.
Here.
Dr. Wong.
Here.
Dr. Dickinson.
Here. All right, first order of business is to approve our minutes. For this evening, we have the regular action meeting dated July 25th, 2017. The Committee of the Whole and the special action meeting dated July 11th, 2017. Executive sessions dated July 11th and July 25th, 2017. Any errors, omissions, additions? No? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve? Mrs. Judge and Mr. Goodwin. Thank you. All right, first off, we'll do correspondence. You want to do presentation first?
Yeah, don't do presentation.
Okay.
Vote on the minute.
Oh, sorry, Mrs. Sugars.
Mr. Goodwin.
Yes.
Mrs. Judge.
Yes.
Mrs. Matlack.
Yes.
Mrs. Seidel.
Yes.
Mrs. Scarpolino.
Yes.
Mrs. Schultz.
Yes.
Mr. Tomlinson.
Yes.
Dr. Wong.
Yes.
Dr. Dickinson.
Yes to all. All right, we won't do correspondence. We'll move into our presentation. I'll turn the mic over to Dr. Malash.
Thank you, Dr. Dickinson. We are very excited this evening to welcome new staff members to the district. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Wilson to come up. She's going to be reading names of new staff members who are here. And Mrs. Wethington is going to join me as well as we shake hands and pass out pins. And new staff members, as you come up, we're going to shake hands, give you a pin, and you're going to come around and shake everybody's hand. You are certainly welcome to stay for the meeting this evening, but you do not need, please don't feel any pressure that you have to stay. Mrs. Wilson, after we introduce everybody, we'll go out and we'll just take a picture of you all out in the hallway. You're welcome to come back, but don't feel any pressure. I know you've got stuff to grade and things to work on. You know, I always like having a lot of people here, but you are welcome to go.
All right, so also in the interest of time, I believe I will read names consecutively and then we can applaud at the end so that we don't have to applaud after each person's name. And these are close to alphabetical, but not quite, so bear with me. First is Cheryl Abeloff, Ashley Ball, Eric Ball, Deborah Bjornstad, Stephanie Cosenza, Yvonne D'Amato Suarez, Amanda Dickinson, Kathleen County, Alexa DiPiero, Donald Draft, Amanda Duncan, Brittany Dwyer, Stephen Emerson, Dawn Fischera, Amy Giampala, Jennifer Yegas-Weist, Katie Costin, Thu Lam, Lon Leibowitz, Kimberly McDonald, Daniel Mellaby, Stephanie Mettle, Chelsea Monahan, Vijay Prabhakaran, Leanne Shine, Katie Serrell, Praveen Sultana, Frank Troso, Heather Vaughn, Taylor Warren, Margaret Weber, Donna Yokel, Tom Storer, and Amy Tabares. Did I miss anybody? Who did I miss? Oh, Fink, yes. Sorry, Adam Fink. Rebecca Springsworth, yes, come on up.
Weingrad.
Okay. And Jacob Weingrad.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Malash. You really know how to clear a room.
And I did that without talking.
Anybody coming back? All right. Now we'll move on to correspondence. And we'll start off with Mrs. Matlack tonight.
Okay, I have two things, and I'll keep it brief. I attended an all-day workshop last week given by the Educational Leadership Foundation of New Jersey through the New Jersey School Boards Association. Are You iSTEAM Ready was the title of the workshop. It's the first of a series of 5 workshops that they'll be presenting, and this one focused on the arts. So clearly the other ones will focus on the rest of the STEAM acronym. So there were introductions, which again took a long time. They need to work on that. One of the things that they talked about were a lot of the some of the school districts there spoke about how they have put in dedicated maker spaces, which sounds great until when it came to the question time, those same districts who put in maker spaces were then saying, we don't know what to do with them. So, yeah, so they emphasized planning throughout this, which sounds like a good idea in anything, to plan what you're going to do before you make an investment in doing it. They talked about how to integrate STEAM into a larger program. Said start small alongside existing programs with volunteers, teachers, and students. Small successes draw interest. Integration, starting small, grows naturally. They did not have anything specific, although John Henry from the New Jersey School Boards said that he was, and he did, he emailed us a checklist of things that we can do to get started, forming a STEAM team, PLCs, board policies, funding, things like that. So I will pass that on to Dr. Malash and Dr. Dickinson. Those files I got. And what else? They had another group there, Arts Ed New Jersey. That's the Unified Voice for Arts Education in New Jersey. It was formerly the New Jersey Arts Education Partnership. And they were there and just talking about the things that they do. And then there was another group there, Music Across the Disciplines Rock and Roll Forever Foundation, talking about how to empower the use of music in the classroom throughout the disciplines. And they sponsor an organization called teachrock.org, and that has classroom lesson plans for using music throughout the disciplines. They talked about that. There were questions and answers. Funding sources, they said, grants, reallocation, redistrict, sustainability, savings. They talked about Sustainable Jersey for Schools is adding an iSTEAM certification. I hadn't heard about that yet, and they just said that they're adding it, so I'm not sure when that will come into play. That's about it. It was very worthwhile. The other sessions are November 30th, January 18th, April 19th, and June 14th, which will come through our emails from New Jersey School Boards if anybody wants to sign up. It was definitely worthwhile, and it's a free leadership workshop. The other thing that I have for you is the Camden County School Boards Association is having their first meeting of the year on Wednesday, October 4th. Starts at 6:45, dinner is at 6 o'clock, and that also centers around STEAM team building is the name of the program. We'll talk about best practices, and they will also have the U.S. Army there talking about their STEAM Tank Challenge that they partner with some school districts. And I believe somebody from Barrington School District will be there to talk about their partnership with the Army in that regard. You can sign up online through New Jersey School Boards to go to that, and they have a dinner at 6 o'clock if you're so inclined, a free hot dinner. So Wednesday, October 4th. Thank you.
Just one quick question.
Sure.
What's makerspace? What do you mean by what's makerspace?
They didn't define exactly what they're doing with their makerspaces, but it is a place where kids can go and do hands-on integrative things centered around engineering and sciences. And if it's STEAM centered, it includes the arts as well. But those school districts that have said that they had these makerspaces, they're not sure what to do with them yet. So they've designated them, but they haven't done it. So clearly, they haven't fully answered that question either.
Thank you, Mrs. Matlack. And I believe Mrs. Judge might have an item or two for us.
I do. So everybody lean back, because I'm going to be a couple minutes. So I try to make it brief, but I'll do my best. So before I start, though, if you do have time to go to those dinners, the Camden County, and sometimes they do joint meetings, I've never regretted going. I've been begrudgingly driven there in the middle of traffic trying to get to Sicklerville or wherever it is. But once I get there, it's good to meet other board members from other districts. And that's when you really realize, we're not doing so bad here in Cherry Hill. But so that's my little plug for Camden County School Boards. So I attended several meetings in the last month, so I'm just going to start with the first one we did, which was with Lou Greenwald on Tuesday, August 29th. This was with Garden State Coalition of Schools. I went with the director, Betsy Ginsburg, Jordan Schiff, who's the president of the Garden State, and myself went to Lou Greenwald's office in Marlton. Meeting started late due to very rainy weather, so it ended later than expected, but all in all, it was a relatively worthwhile meeting. I was able to say thanks to him eye to eye on behalf of Cherry Hill for the additional state aid that we received for the current 17-18 fiscal year. I was able to bring up the busing transportation issue. I have better news later, but he kind of leaned that it was an economic issue, not necessarily having a hard time finding bus drivers, but that employees were looking for better jobs. So he thinks that it's an economy. Now that the economy is improving, that's why we're having difficulty. So my next one is better news regarding that subject. So on Wednesday, September 6th, I went with school boards, New Jersey school boards, to meet with Senator Beach on Wednesday, September 6th. This was the day after school started. So there were Board of Ed members from Gibbsboro, Maple Shade, Collingswood, Cherry Hill, and along with Jonathan Pushman from school boards. And Senator Beach and his aide, Ivy, I don't know her last name. Rosner, Ivy Rosner, who's a Bret Hart parent. But this was a much more casual meeting than any other meeting I've ever had with Senator Beach in the past, and there didn't seem to be time constraints because his 11 o'clock didn't show, so it was much more laid back. It lasted approximately an hour, and it really was actually pretty enjoyable. It was interesting to hear what Collingswood and Maple Shade had to say. I know a lot about Gibbsboro because Joyce Miller is on Camden County Education Services Commission, and so but it was very delightful. And Senator Beach brought up busing transportation issue, and he gets it, in quotation, but he gets it. He brought it up and said that he's working with Camden County Education Services Commission and Community College, Camden County Community College, to train drivers and give the testing for CDL licenses. So he brought it up. I didn't even have to bring it up. And I was able to say thank you to him also for our additional state aid for this fiscal year. The next meeting I attended was 2 Saturdays ago, September 16th. It was the New Jersey School Board's Legislative Committee meeting. This is a 4 times a year meeting, and the first one for this school year was on Saturday morning, September 16th. Rather light agenda because the Assembly and the Senate are all campaigning. All 120 seats are up for election, and there's not really an expectation for a lot of activity this fall before the election due to lame duck and a lame duck governor. Newark school district was discussed briefly as they were just approved by this New Jersey Board of Ed, the State Board of Ed, to go back to local control. There was a guest speaker from the New Jersey Department of Ed who I have heard before. She discussed changes regarding the ESSA. Her name is Diana Fasoli. She's the Chief Public Affairs Officer. My takeaway from that was that the changes that have been approved by the state in August on ESSA or ESSA is to the changes are to increase stability. One thing that I did not know is the regional achievement centers, the RACs, they're called regional achievement centers, have been reconfigured to the Office of Strategic Alignment, and therefore districts that are in most of need. SGPs stand for Student Growth Profiles, Student Percentiles. Student Growth Percentiles are a big part of what they're looking at. The state is offering, the Department of Ed is offering technical assistance for the next 3 months, and by winter they will identify the schools most in need for their assistance. She spoke for about 20 minutes, so that was of the whole morning. That was my best takeaway. There was the president of New Jersey PTA was also there, and she spoke what the state PTA does, etc. The next meeting I attended was last Wednesday, September 20th, with Garden State Coalition of Schools again. We met with the Phil Murphy aide, Phil Murphy, who's running on the Democratic ticket for governor. His aide named Matt Platkin. So it was Betsy Ginsburg, Jordan Schiff, who's president of Garden State, Chuck Sampson, who's past president of Garden State, and Bernadette McLaughlin, who's a board member in Paramus, thank you, and myself. And we met Matt Platkin in Hillsborough. Matt is a quite young, I'm getting old, he's a quite young, energetic guy, and he played I wrote this today, and this is true. He played the hour he gave us very close to his chest. He gave us exactly an hour. And I wouldn't want to play poker with him because he would not drive away thinking, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I gave too much away. He didn't give anything away. So very smart, because he said more than once, there's 48 days left at the time. There's 48 days left until the election, so he doesn't want to, none of them want to screw anything up. So he was able to state that he thinks Phil Murphy has made it perfectly clear that education in the state of New Jersey is a top priority for him. We brought up a few issues, such as the high special ed costs, the cap waiver for healthcare costs, but there are also other costs outside school district's control, such as transportation, special education, energy costs that also should be considered. He wrote a lot of notes. We brought up charter schools. He said that Mr. Murphy isn't anti-charter, but he thinks that there should be a timeout or moratorium on charters, and that he is very aware, the whole group in the Phil Murphy camp is very aware that the charter law is overdue for an update. We mentioned Park. Mr. Murphy is opposed to high-stakes exit testing and has stated he wants to, it's right on his website because I looked at it last Wednesday morning before the meeting. He states on there he wants to get rid of Park. But he doesn't have a real stating on his website anyway of what he'd replace it with. A few other topics came up, such as how to pay for free community college, how that's going to be funded. Matt Placken stated more than once that they actually haven't seen the actual state budget, and he stated several times that there were only 48 days left until the election. So he was not, but yeah, he was really close to the chest. It wasn't a waste of time, but it was worthwhile. My drive was worthwhile, and it was a nice day. My last meeting I attended, what did I just say? It was a nice day. It was a nice day. I mean, if it were a raining day, it would have been a miserable. It was a nice day for a drive. And Hillsborough is a beautiful area in New Jersey. Who knew? Had to go through Princeton, blah, blah. I'm making this longer. So anyway, so my last meeting to report on is last Friday, September 22nd, with School Boards Association. Jonathan Pushman invited the same people that were at Senator Beach's to meet with Pam Lampett. So that was last Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. And at this meeting was Collingswood, Gibbsboro, Cherry Hill, and Jonathan Pushman from School Boards. We met for about an hour. Again, I was able to say thank you to Pam for her support and the additional funding that we received this summer for this fiscal year. She was pleased to hear some of what we put the money towards, facilities, grounds, and athletic facilities. A few items that she brought up were bills that she's working on regarding payout of sick time, and that it is unpredictable and can be a financial burden. And I think that's not only for school districts, but for municipalities. This hasn't gotten very far, but it's on her front burner. She brought up the concussion bill and the right to learn and who is eligible to give a student permission to come back to school. And in her opinion, it should be a physician, physician's assistant, or a nurse practitioner. She brought up that she wants a feeding program called Breakfast for All, which some school districts are not offering breakfast yet, so she's really trying to push that. Jonathan Pushman from School Boards brought up a few issues such as school funding and the ability to plan timely, in that it needs to be dependable year after year. He brought up Chapter 78, the Cadillac tax, the burden of health care costs on school districts, and specifically talked about school employee health benefits program and their skyrocketing costs. Did you know that the school employee health benefits plan went up 13% for this coming year, but for municipalities it went up 0%? I didn't know that until legislative committee. That I learned that at legislative committee. I did not know that. That was stunning to me. And then my last report, believe it or not, so you can sit up again. My last report is tomorrow is the Garden State Coalition of Schools meeting, the last Wednesday of the month. Lieutenant Governor Kim Godano, Republican candidate for New Jersey governor, was supposed to attend. And late today, and I just checked my email before the meeting started, and there hasn't been a replacement for her, but somebody on her team is supposed to come to our meeting tomorrow. So they're going to send out a notice, because I know there's a lot of, we are assuming that a lot of people are going to come because Kim Godano was supposed to be there. But there was some sort of personal conflict or something or another, and that came up late today. So I'll be going to that tomorrow, regardless of who's there on the other end. Any questions? Okay, seeing none. Back to you, Dr. Dickinson.
Thank you, Mrs. Judge. Good stuff. I got to tell you, that was exhausting. Thank you for all that you all on the board do for us, and attending all these meetings is very important. It seems like it's a full-time job for the two of you. But thank you. Before we move on to the board reports, you mentioned the elective, and I just want to point out any candidates that are here this evening and have them recognized. So I'll call the names of the candidates running in the November 7th election, and if you would just stand to be recognized. We have 3 incumbents: Mr. Goodwin, Mrs. Matlack, and Mrs. Seidel. and Frederick Donde, and Sally Tong. Okay, good luck. Okay, so we'll move on to our board rep reports. I guess we'll start off with East with Josh, who looks stunning tonight.
Testing. Okay. Hello once again, esteemed members of the Board of Education. Even though only 22 days have passed since school started, I have a lengthy list of events and activities to discuss. I will try to keep it brief, so ask me questions at the end to fill in any other relevant information. Orientation occurred a few days after the last report I gave, and it gave students a better understanding of the school's layout and expectations had of them by teachers, administrators, and hopefully each other. New students had the chance to test out their lockers, even though locker usage has heavily decreased in the school, visit their homeroom, and talk to teachers and students about the schedule, workload, and their general concerns. Students for the entire school reported promptly at 7:30 a.m. on September 5th for the first day. Returning students and members of the class of 2021 visited all 8 of their classes and their homeroom during the course of the day. The cycle then began on day 1 and moved through its regular rotation for the days after. Even though students are back in school, construction on various parts of the school, mainly around the courtyard areas, remains. A deadline was missed during the summer, and thus it is expected to continue into October. But construction is limited to certain hours when students are not present, so the primary issue is related to appearance and in access to certain parts of the school. However, I am excited for the product of this renovation and know that the time and money invested thus far are worth the redevelopment of aged parts of the school. A new policy has also been instituted relating to the timing of the first bell. Previously, a bell at 7:25 heralded students' movement to class. Now there is a 7:15 bell, after which students are supposed to clear the halls. However, it seems that it has been a little less than effective, at least as a student who arrives after 7:15 and still sees the halls particularly full. Additionally, the rules about dropping academic levels are also being more thoroughly upheld. Until the first interim, students cannot move up or down in levels. Although I'm completely fine with my current academic challenge, this can be upsetting for students unable to cope with the workload of a challenging class or who believe they would fare well in a more advanced class. Extracurricular activities and sports are also back at capacity. Already, it seems that more clubs than ever are having meetings. New organizations like the Muslim Student Association and Civil War Reenactment Club joined the ranks of established clubs like Habitat for Humanity, Chemistry Club, and my personal favorite, Debate Team, which has its second meeting tomorrow, if anyone's wondering. Fall sports like cross-country, football, field hockey, and soccer also had a number of practices and meets thus far with a good amount of success. I would like to praise the activities office in particular. This year, seemingly more than others, a number of resources, including calendars and social media, have been utilized to organize and spread the word about events. Considering there are 5 days in a week and more than that many clubs, keeping everything organized and accessible is helpful, especially for freshmen who want to get involved but aren't entirely sure what to do relating to scheduling of clubs. Parents have also had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time at the high school during this time period and over the next few days as well. Back to School Night introduced parents to their children's teachers during 15-minute segments. Although my father had no prior experience of the layout of the school, he was still able to visit all 8 of my periods and interact with my teachers, so the event must have been pretty well run. For the parents of seniors, college planning events continue. Recently, parents and students attended college application night to learn more about the process of applying to schools. In the near future, there's also a financial aid night to discuss options for paying for college. Tonight is also the senior trip information night, which I would have attended had I not a prior commitment. Anyways, thank you for listening, and I hope to report more in 1 month.
Very good. Thank you, Josh. Then we'll move to Wes with Carly, who is also looking very stunning tonight.
Thank you.
Equal time.
Good evening, Dr. Malaj, Dr. Dickinson, Mr. Goodwin, and board members. I am so excited to be reporting to everyone tonight on behalf of Cherry Hill West's first month of school in the 2017-2018 academic year. As students and faculty return to school, West has been swarming with activities and events to kick off the new school year. Academic classes resumed on Tuesday, September 5th. We ran a modified schedule on this day, allowing students to attend all of their classes the first day. Once again, West peer leaders have been assigned to freshman homerooms to help with the class of 2021 to feel properly welcomed into the Lion family and providing a mentor when in need. Peer leaders were trained in team building and encouragement during their annual trip to Camp Akanikin in late August. Though just 30 minutes away from home, the trip furnished new friendships and instilled patience, trust, and courage into both students and faculty. Once the school year started, peer leaders attended the freshman homerooms every single day during the first cycle of the year, playing games and teaching evaluative lessons. In honor of the long-awaited football season to arrive, West held a fall athletics night commemorating all fall sports in addition to the football team on Friday, September 8th. Shortly thereafter, the captains of fall sports attended a luncheon coordinated by our new athletic director, Mr. Barreau. Discussions included how, as captains, it is their responsibility to lead the team and exhibit the West way. Back to School Night was also hosted on September 14th, offering parents a glimpse into their child's school day. As for upcoming events, the girls' soccer team will be hosting their annual car wash on Saturday, September 30th in front of Jones Gym from 8 o'clock a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Additionally, the PSATs will be administered to the sophomore and junior classes on October 11th. All students are expected to attend school, and it will be an early dismissal day for all. Lastly, West Guidance Department will be putting on a presentation for current seniors and parents this coming Thursday, offering instruction on the vigorous, exhausting process of college applications. At that time, counselors will be available to address any questions or concerns for both students and parents. Thank you.
Thank you both. Good reports. I will say that I attended my freshman daughter's open house back to school night, and I got lost, and Dr. Malash had to show me around, so it's not an easy thing to do, as many of us know. Okay, we'll move into our first public discussion. Your comments must be restricted to items on the action agenda. When you come to the mic, please state your name and address. You will have 3 minutes for your remarks. Please note that the green light will turn yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining. The light will turn red when your 3 minutes are up. Anything on the action agenda this evening? No? Okay, seeing none, I'll turn the mic over to Dr. Malash.
Thank you, Dr. Dickinson. So today was the 16th day of school, which doesn't seem like it's a whole lot of days. But as the kids just went through and gave the reports, there's been an incredible amount of activity in the schools just about 7 days a week that I'm sure Mr. Sugars and Mr. Carter can attest to, all of the things that have been going on during these first few weeks of school. As I sit back and think about the opening in September and we get ready to move into October, Friday will be the 18th day of school, which means that 10% of the year will be gone by the time we wake up Saturday morning, which gives me a little bit of anxiety because there's a lot that is going to go on and a lot more that we need to accomplish. It's been a very positive opening of school. As we're in the middle of September, we're in the midst of celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. So to all who identify as Hispanic, I know there are activities going on throughout the schools. I always look forward to the group Latinos at West who goes around and performs at some of the different schools and does traditional dance and has traditional activities. So to everybody who identifies, we are thinking about you and help us to celebrate within our schools. We have been going through, as you are aware, we've added some additional community conversations during the course of the year that started in August. I've had 2 Saturday conversations, one at Barton Elementary School and one at Cooper Elementary School. I have another one tomorrow afternoon, here at Malberg at 2 o'clock, Mrs. Wilson, that we're getting together tomorrow. But we've scheduled 24 additional community meetings during the course of the year that began in August and will take us through the end of May to talk about what's going on in the district. To try to provide another opportunity for constituents and community members, folks who may not have children in the district or folks who do have children in the district that aren't able to come out to some of our regularly scheduled board meetings or committee meetings to come out and talk about what's going on. One of the big areas of focus that we were talking about is our Cherry Hill 2020 plan, the strategic planning that we worked on last year, and the work that we are currently engaged in preparing for a referendum. Because literally 1 year from today, it'll actually be the 25th of September 2018, but it's a Tuesday, 1 year from today, we will go out for referendum, which means that we as a school district, the Board of Education will go and we will ask the community to support work that must be done within the district. We spent a great deal of time over the past few years. We've had a lot of input from community and from staff and from board members about work that we believe, infrastructure work, building work, safety and security work that needs to be done. As we finalize that process, Mrs. Sugars and I are looking forward to doing a presentation to the board either in December or January about what that plan will look like. And then in March of 2018, we'll move forward and look for the board to certify items to be included within the referendum. So an incredible amount of work that's going on. By June of next year, we should know exactly what it is that will be contained, how it will look, and what's going to be included. So I encourage you to come out. The calendars for the events when we're having these different meetings are online. Please make sure that if you have not yet done so, sign up for our weekly newsletter. The e-newsletter is one of the best places to get weekly information about what's going on within the district. If you have not downloaded our district app, download the app. All of our social media, all the news that we send out can be found within the app, and it's in both in the iTunes store and in the Google Play store. You can find the app to go through. The kids, Josh talked a little about the construction project going on at East. East is where we saw the major construction work that we had going on during the course of the summer. It is an ongoing construction site. They are progressing with where we are. We'll be looking forward to the project being done. Mrs. Sugars, Mr. Carter, Mr. Bart have been intimately involved, meeting with the contractors and being in and out of the building throughout the summer and throughout the past couple of weeks. And I believe we'll have a follow-up meeting again tomorrow with what's going on. When it's done, one of the great things is you won't notice that a lot of the work that was done because it's underground as they address some of the water infiltration issues that have taken place over there because of where we live and where that building was built. New windows are being put in throughout the one wing and the breezeways, and it really is going to look incredible. So we're very pleased about that. We're also looking forward to the completion of the Barclay, the project that we've done at Barclay Elementary School with the security vestibule and setting Barclay up truly as a model school for safety and security. We'll do a big ribbon cutting and an announcement. Hopefully I'll have more information for you during the course of the month of October about what that will look like and when we'll be done. I'm grateful to the students for the information that they share and the perspective that they give us about what's going on within the high schools. I can tell you that I've been in all the schools over the last couple of weeks. It's been exciting to see all the children. And as I've been in the kindergarten classrooms and talking to kindergarten students and some of the teachers, do you realize that the kids that started kindergarten 3 weeks ago are going to graduate from our high schools in 2030? 2030 is when these kids who started in kindergarten will graduate from our high schools. Now, as I look around, many of us will probably still be in this room in 2030. But it sounds, right? Mr. Thompson, you will be here. It sounds like it's a long way away, but it really is not. And as I've had a chance to talk to some of these kids, it's an amazing perspective. The only thing more exciting than being in the kindergartens and talking to the kindergarten kids was when Mrs. Wethington and I had the chance to stand out in front of Barclay on the opening day of the preschool, and to watch the parents and the children, come up to the door, because these are 3-year-olds, some of them, that are starting at Barclay who won't graduate until 2032. But I didn't want to give you that number, but I will. But incredibly amazing to look at that. That's when these kids are going to graduate from high school. And the responsibility that we have as we talk about the work and infrastructure work that we need to do within the district, there's work that's got to be done. These kids are here, a little more than 11,300 of them that are here. And there are more that continue to register and more that continue to join the district. We have a great academic program, wonderfully supportive environment. If you haven't yet done so, please make sure you join your school's PTA and stay involved in the activities that go on.
Thank you, Dr. Malash. Lots of activity going on.
Lots of activity.
Good stuff. All right, time to do some business. Move into our action agenda. Mrs. Seidel, would you move the C&I agenda, please?
I sure will. Thank you, Dr. Dickinson. The superintendent recommends and I move the following. Number 1, approval of attendance at conferences and workshops for the 2017-2018 school year. Number 2, approval of out-of-district placements for the 2017-2018 school year. Number 3, approval of professional services agreement. And you have a yellow sheet in front of you with an addition of item 4, approval of special education settlement agreement. Do I have a second? Ms. Scarpolino. Any questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars.
Mrs. Seidel.
Yes to all.
Mr. Goodwin.
Yes.
Mrs. Judge.
Yes to all.
Mrs. Matlack.
Yes.
Mrs. Scarpolino.
Yes.
Mrs. Schultz.
Yes.
Mr. Tomlinson.
Yes to all.
Dr. Wong.
Yes.
Dr. Dickinson.
Yes to all. Mr. Goodwin, would you move the BNF agenda, please?
Yes, I will. The superintendent recommends and I move the following. 1, financial reports. 2, resolution for the award of transportation. 3, resolution for the award of change orders. 4, acceptance of donations. And on the blue sheet, 5, resolution approving settlement agreement. Do I have a second? Mrs. Judge, are there any questions? If not, Mrs. Sugars.
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mrs. Judge,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Matlack,
Yes.
Mrs. Seidel,
Yes.
Mrs. Scarpellino,
Yes.
Mrs. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Tomlinson,
With regards to item 1F, abstain from Bancroft Neurohealth, yes to the remainder.
Dr. Wong,
Yes.
Dr. Dickinson,
Yes to all. Mrs. Judge, would you move the HR agenda, please?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Dr. Dickinson. The superintendent recommends and I move the following. Number 1, termination of employment certificated. Number 2, termination of employment non-certificated. Number 3, appointment certificated. Number 4, appointments non-certificated. Number 5, leaves of absence certificated. Number 6, leaves of absence non-certificated. Number 7, assignment salary change non-certificated. Number 8, other compensation certificated. Number 9, other compensation non-certificated. And I just want to point out that we have an additional handout for item numbers 3, 7, and 8. Do I have a second? Mrs. Matlack. Any questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars.
Mrs. Judge,
Yes to all.
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mrs. Matlack,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Seidel,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Scarpellino,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Tomlinson,
Yes to all.
Dr. Wong,
Yes.
Dr. Dickinson.
Yes to all. Okay, before we move to P&L, I'm going to turn the mic back over to Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Dickinson. There are 3 things that I would like to just follow up on from the HR agenda. First, in item number 1, you approved the retirement of John Laird, who's been the athletic trainer at High School West since the mid-1980s. And I can tell you from experience, because he arrived at West when I was a student there, taped my knees and my ankles and made somebody who was not a great athlete fit to be able to be out on a field. An incredible gentleman and a gentle man in all that he has done. You know, not only took care of me and my siblings, but has taken care of all 4 of my children, and literally generations of children that have gone through Cherry Hill High School West. We will replace and we will hire for a trainer, but replacing John as a man is going to be almost impossible to ever do for what he has meant to the West community. So he will truly be missed by that school over there. Then there are 2 people that I'm really excited to introduce you to tonight. I'm going to introduce you to them as individuals. Going to give them each a chance to come up to the microphone to speak. The first is to welcome back to the district for an acting assistant principal position, Mrs. Betsy McLeister. And Betsy, if you'd walk up to the podium. So some of you may remember Mrs. McLeister. Mrs. McLeister retired as an assistant principal from High School East a few years ago. She had a long and celebrated career here in Cherry Hill as a teacher, as the principal at Johnson Elementary School, as a department chair and an assistant principal at High School West, and as an assistant principal at High School East. Mrs. McLeister will be over at Crucy Middle School when Mrs. Hans McKenzie goes out on maternity. She'll join us in November and stay through the end of the academic year. So, Betsy, you want to say a couple of words?
It's on? Okay. I'll be very brief. I am really very excited about, again, serving Cherry Hill, and this time especially the Carusi community. In my 40 years in this district, I was never in the middle school, so I am extremely excited, and I thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
And the second person is Mr. Tom Storer. And Tom, if you would come to the podium. Tom is going to join us, and he will be at High School East starting next Monday on October the 2nd. Earlier this month, you approved Mr. O'Connor moving over to Beck Middle School as the interim principal for the academic year. So Tom is going to join us as the acting assistant principal at High School East. Tom comes to us. He retired just in June from Highland High School, from Highland High School in the Black Horse Pike Regional School District. He spent more than 30 years in Black Horse Pike Regional, and I believe all of those years at Highland. Tom,
yes,
you were there?
yes, sir.
Tom is formerly a New Jersey State Assistant Principal of the Year, as recognized by his peers and the New Jersey Principal and Supervisors Association. As we looked for somebody that was fitting and appropriate to go over work at High School East, Tom came incredibly highly recommended by the former principal at Highland, a gentleman named Frank Palatucci. So we are really excited that Tom's going to be joining us. So Tom.
Well, at my old school, they never let me talk into the mic because I never shut up, but I may not be here long enough for you to fire me, so I can say whatever I want. I just want to tell you that I'll be a 43-year veteran rookie, and I've never been more excited than anything to take this new challenge on. I've always read about the Cherry Hill District. It's a gold standard, and it's going to give me an opportunity to put a final stamp on my educational career. I love kids. I look forward to it. Actually, Dr. Perry just left, but he has a administrative meeting on Thursday that I'm going to go to and kind of get the ball rolling. So thank you for this opportunity. I'm really excited. Ms. Judge sits on a board with my wife, so I got to introduce myself to her tonight. And please say something nice about me when you see her.
You do the same.
Even if you have to make it up.
Oh, absolutely.
So thank you very much.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Malash, and welcome. Welcome. I'll go back to P&L. Mrs. Scarpolino, would you please move the P&L agenda?
Certainly, Dr. Dickinson. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following: the second reading of policy and regulation. Number 2, the first reading of policy. Number 3, the waiver of regulation 2340 field trips. Number 4, resolution for recognition of Week of Respect. Number 5, resolution for recognition of School Violence Awareness Week. Number 6, approval of harassment, intimidation, bullying investigation decisions, excluding incident 3258, which is being removed from the agenda. Do I have a second? Mrs. Seidel, are there any questions? Seeing none, Ms. Sugars?
Mrs. Scarpolino?
Yes to all.
Mr. Goodwin?
Yes.
Mrs. Judge?
Yes to all.
Mrs. Matlack?
Yes.
Mrs. Seidel?
Yes.
Mrs. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Tomlinson?
Yes to all.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
Dr. Dickinson?
Yes, to all. And we have no strategic planning items this evening. Sorry. Always feel so sad looking over your way. I'm sure you feel left out, but it's coming. Make up for it later, right?
Yeah.
Good point. All right, so we'll move into our second public discussion. You may now comment on any issue. When you come to the mic, please state your name and address. You will have 3 minutes for your remarks. Nope, no takers tonight? Okay. Can I have a motion to exit public to go back into exec session where no action will take place on an HIB appeal? Would you make that motion?
I will make that motion. Yes. What he said.
I'll second it.
Okay. Good night, everyone.